In the Karenread case, our commenters want to know why the prosecutor is going after all of Karenread's experts and not building his own case. And in the Bryan Kohberger case, how did Judge Hippler respond to my request to unseal some documents?
Our viewers had a lot to say about the expert witnesses. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And Andrew, what happened with Judge Hippler?
Well, as you know, back in October, Judge Hippler put out a request that if people wanted to see if they could unseal some documents, here's how you do it. And I've done it twice now. But why don't we take a look at the comments we got on the Karenread case, because that case is exploding right now.
Yeah, so we have this comment from Nedla. Did you want to take a look at this one first?
Okay. And this, of course, is about the forensic analyst, Dr. Richard Green, who you see in the corner, and prosecutor Hank Brennan's motion to remove him as an expert. And this person, Nedland 3641, said, I thought Dr. Green was less than impressive as an expert. I'm sure he is a very nice man and expert in his field, but I'm afraid I found his testimony hard to follow and perhaps even a bit bumbling at times. But before we tack ourselves too much into this, why don't you do the next one?
This one is from Head and Bat. I believe it seems like that because of both teams. AJ/Y really needed to clean up the confusion created by Lally's idiotic as well misleading questions, which Green was trying to deal with tactfully. I too felt frustrated by Green's way of responding, but I think that could and should have been cleaned up on the redirect to the point of crystal clear simplicity. I'm 100% Team Green, but I simply couldn't focus during Lally's cross, and I imagine the jurors couldn't either. All those experts just became a mishmash, I suppose. And I think they touch on a really important part with the clear simplicity. I think that you don't want to go over people's heads. You want people to feel like they understand what you're saying.
That's a problem in any trial where there are experts, plural. Sometimes when they get way deep into the weeds of any subject, whether it's forensics, whether it's science, whether it's medicine, when they get really deep into those weeds, a lot of times the jury, even if you have a bright jury, they'll just get a little bit lost. And I think that may have been the case in the first trial. As I've said before, I'm not going to disparage any other attorney, but it did get to be a bit of a mismatch. It sure did.
Yeah.
Number 8, Cameron L. 15K, I think it is. Asks if he is qualified as an expert, and now we're still talking about Mr. Green. If he's qualified as an expert, then let him testify. He was already qualified. This is just the Commonwealth trying to remove any testimony that does not support their theory. That is not truth-finding or justice. That is just trying to get a conviction. And this also comes on the heels. We got these comments from when we read the motion by Hank Brennan there in the corner to disqualify Mr. Green. Now we've had 2 full days of hearings on Dr. Marie Russell, and we haven't gotten comments on that yet. It's too soon. But that went on for 2 days. And as we record this episode, the Judge Cannone, has not ruled on that yet. I checked just before we went on. That could happen in 5 minutes or 5 days. We don't know. But so Brennan is real. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say is the thing is like I want to say is the standard in a mistrial, but like is a mistrial really standard? But you're asking the judge basically to go back on her previous decision to if they're asking to say that they don't qualify as an expert.
That's right. That's right. She's got to reverse herself. And Brennan gave her material, though, saying that since then, Marie Russell allegedly changed her testimony. I don't think she did, but he tried to needle Marie Russell on the stand. I thought she did quite well. I really thought she did quite well. And I think you're right. I think that for the judge to not allow these experts a second time after she already did Daubert hearings and allowed them all, It's just something that doesn't look good in my mind.
I was gonna say if like she does go back on herself, it's not gonna help this, like the fact that people already feel so much distrust about this situation. I feel like that would, I don't know, that would like break people's minds. I think that'd be too much.
Well, why doesn't Mr. Brennan, why doesn't he bring new evidence to prove their case? Where's the new evidence? Why is he, when you don't have the facts, you just attack the other side, and that's what's happening here, in my view.
Yeah, it's like they didn't have more evidence to bring, so instead they're just trying to chop around the pieces that they don't like, which if you're trying to do a good job, I think there's difference between like work ethics and morals. It's like, it's his job to win. It makes sense. But I think a lot of people, like you mentioned, want to see new evidence.
Yeah.
All right. So Ron TDB. This trial has me going in circles. Without knowing anything, you would think she's guilty. But then why all the but dials, but answers, getting rid of phones, the dog in house, inverted video, and then the Google search experts having to testify that they didn't have the correct version, not a single video in the neighborhood. Anyone with half a brain knows body blow isn't going to break a polycarbonate taillight. You would be lucky to bust it throwing a baseball at it, much less a blow to the human body. Kind of a gross and morbid subject, but I think that has a good point, and that these cars are meant to be able to withstand like going through guardrails and hitting other cars and protecting the people inside. Humans are not. There is not a lot to a human. Humans, like the impact, the force is from just a standing person who weighs 200 pounds is not doing anything to that car. I mean, I don't know about the headlights specifically, but that is a morbid thought.
I watched the entire trial, and I don't recall a Commonwealth expert, addressing this as well they should have, because I have that question too. I mean, I certainly don't want to be backed into by a car, but I think my body would break before the headlight would break or the tail light would break.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's a morbid thought, but I mean, think about it. It's a polycarbonate tail light. They're pretty strong. I don't know if you've ever had to replace one yourself. They're pretty strong these days. Back in the old days, they were just cheap old plastic. And, I don't know, even then it would be hard to bust up one of those. But I think that's a good point. I really think that's a good point.
And they also like touch on like the getting rid of the phones. That I think for me, when I'm trying to explain the Karenread situation to someone, that's a point that I bring up a lot, is like this guy took his phone. He knew he was going to have to hand it in. He cut up his SIM card. He took it. I got rid of it at an army base. Is a little dramatic.
It's like a little bit shady. It's a little bit
just a little.
shady. So our last read comment is from Calliopenikidis. Forgive me if I mispronounced it, which I know I did. Thank you, Andrew and Laney. Quite frankly, I am shocked that this is the tack Brennan is taking. I somehow expected more from him, in that he'd try to focus on proving the car accident, in parentheses, that never happened, in my opinion, rather than trying to remove all the defense's experts. To me, the fact that Brennan is focusing on these elements and so much tells me the strength of those experts' opinions, etc., and how nervous he is to have to cross-examine them. Very curious to hear how the judge will rule. And yeah, now Mr. Brennan, he had the hearings, the Dauber hearings on Marie Russell. He has filed the motion against Mr. Green, and we went over that. And now he has also filed a motion with a red flag saying he's going to go after the ARCA experts. He filed a discovery request, and he has now filed a notice that he intends, if the defense can't back up all of the information that he's asking for, which he says they won't be able to, he will go after the ARCA experts. So that's 4 different experts he's gone after.
Oh my gosh. Well, and the thing is, I mean, I already touched on this before, but it's hard to go, in my opinion, as layman, to go against these people that the judge has already approved. I think that this is already such a public situation that so many people have distrust for, when you have these cops saying atrocious things. Like, you have police officers saying things that I wouldn't even allow my friends to say in my presence about this person. There's already so much distrust built on this, and if this is the best you have, this isn't really helping the public opinion, which, granted, the jury is not the general public, is not YouTube. The people, in comparison to people that know about this case, the YouTube bubble, we're small, even though we're around the world. It doesn't look good. It doesn't help public opinion, in my opinion.
I think the Commonwealth knows that it's in trouble. As we record this episode and drop it, there's a hearing scheduled the week after we're doing this episode on Trooper Proctor and his future. And that notice came out. It was posted on the court website that there is a hearing the week after we're recording this, specifically on Mr. Proctor's future. So they know he was the lead investigator. I don't see how they can put him on the stand. I don't see how they can't put him on the stand, because in trial one, they tried to get everything through his supervisor, Trooper Buchanan, but that didn't work out so well. And so they had to put Mr. Proctor on the stand. And to put him on the stand again, I don't know.
I don't know that they can't put him on the stand again. If they like, for all they're doing with these witnesses, if Proctor's on the stand, you read those text messages again. How are you going to have a single woman on this jury that's going to be like, this guy's okay?
We're not. Well, let's go to a positive note. You mentioned a few minutes ago that the world is watching, and they are. The commenters just on the Reed case, no other case that we're following, but just the commenters on the Reed case now come from 40 different countries. And the new ones this week are St. Lucia and Poland. And yes, if you had the question I had, is St. Lucia an independent sovereign nation? Yes, it is. It's one of those islands, but it went back and forth from England to France, and finally St. Lucia declared its independence, and it is a sovereign independent nation. Of course, so is Poland. So now we have received comments on this case, the Karenread case, from 40 different countries. And so, I don't know, I was thinking maybe we should have asked how many states, because we haven't been keeping track of how many states, but people also tell me, well, we're from Louisiana or we're from Texas. And I do remember those ones. We've had comments from all 6 of the New England states. We've had comments from all 3 of the West Coast states on the Pacific. The state of Washington, Oregon, and California, but I just haven't kept track, so I apologize for
if you keep track, I mean, we're at 40 countries right now. There's only 50 states.
I know.
We already got Puerto Rico on there as its own little special dot.
Yeah, we have Puerto Rico and Guam, and we count that as one. We didn't try and pad our list out.
Exactly.
So anyhow,
yeah, and that we have 3 and 1 on the
yeah. So why don't we go to the Kohberger comments on the Kohberger case?
Yeah, so Melly DNA 004. Well, my house has 16 electronic devices. I'm not counting USB drives or external drives. And there's only 2 people in my household, but I probably even got you beat on the 16 electronic devices because they're everywhere. I don't know about you.
Yeah, this goes back to the comment in the motion that we looked at in a previous episode very recently, that the evidence apparently includes 67 electronic devices. And at first I said, wow, that's a lot. But then I sat down and thought about it, and I'm thinking, it really isn't, considering people like Melly here. She has 16 electronic devices. I mean, do USB drives count? Because I probably have 67 of them. I mean, because paper days are gone. And when I send out stuff to an insurance company, if it's any more than, say, 10 or 12 pages, I put it on a USB and I mail it out. Well, I have a bunch of those sitting around the office. Do they all count?
And all of your hard drives?
Plus all of my, photographs. I've been an amateur, I stress amateur photographer for years. And so I have a bunch of them on PDFs. I know it's not the best way to save them, people, but the fact is I have a drawer full of them. So I probably don't have 67, but does that count? Does that really count?
I would say a camera counts. When I think of electronic devices in my household, I think of my electronic doorbell. I think about my electronic lights. I think about my thermostat that can sense when somebody walks by. I can check my notifications and see if someone was walking past the thermostat in the living room. I have my like Google Home that has the screen in my kitchen, and then I have my Google Home in my basement.
Holy, you probably have 67 electronic devices.
I probably have them all in my basement. We're talking about video game consoles. Don't even get me started. They're subpoenaing my PlayStation, both of my Xboxes, the
Holy
GameCube. I have the PlayStation 2. Like how electronic we talking about? There's Game Boys in the house. Like I got a refrigerator right next to me. Is there a way to check when they open and close? Everything's a smart device nowadays.
So
my dishwasher has an app. There's subpoenaing my dishwasher. I say, hey, Google, start my dishwasher.
So now I'm wondering, maybe that's not very many, because I'm thinking, they also talked in that motion we talked about in a previous episode about alternative suspects. So if you have 67 electronic devices, that's just one person. I mean, I started racking my brains thinking about all the stuff I've read about this case, the frat boys, the tunnels, the, Brett Kopak and all that. And I'm thinking 67 is not really that many. I mean, obviously it's the 4 victims plus Bethany plus Dylan plus Mr. Kohberger. So now who else? What about ring cameras in the neighborhood? What about phones of all their friends? They had friends. They were popular people. What about their co-workers? What about, people they talked to? What about people at the food truck? I mean, so that's where my mind was going, is how many different people whose devices they looked at are there? But now you're making me think that's not that many. I mean, I don't know.
The way that I think about it is that we have 6 people in the house, and then the defense, and then all of those people have a cell phone. They're college students, so they're all going to have laptops. So we're already at 14, and that's not including any doorbells, iPads. So 14, we're already a good portion of the way there.
Yeah. So it's still a mystery. It's still a mystery to me. So let's move on to number 8, and that's from SG Training Stable. The electronic devices could possibly be, we've kind of gone over this, but surveillance cameras, satellite equipment, databases, servers, the suspect's car and phone, computers from students and victims. So yeah, from Training Stable, we've kind of beat this. We've beat a dead horse.
Yeah, and then when we go to none walks into a bar, the 67 devices, third-party databases are most likely Ring doorbells and cameras with cloud storage, which, like we talked about, I have 3 of those devices at least in my house. I'd be interested to know if they downloaded and preserved the surviving girl's phone data, what they were doing in the 8 hours before the notified and the police, and the 8 hours before the police is something that comes up quite frequently.
Yeah, who did they talk to during that time period? Who were they in contact with? Did they call their friends to come over and clean the place up? That remains to be a big mystery, and I'm sorry if we mention it in every episode, but I think it deserves to be in every episode. And then we go to comment number 2. Okay, 1 terabyte of documents would be 8 million pages or 500 hours of video footage. There is no way that prosecution properly produced and organized all 68 terabytes of information. How did they even type up that many documents and put together that much video footage in that amount of time that they did? The prosecution is going to say they didn't provide reports because they haven't received the reports yet, and we can't provide a report that we don't have. Sadly, Judge Hippler will most likely side in favor of prosecution and still allow the expert witnesses. I don't know about that. We had read the motion in which it was pointed out that the prosecution turned over the names of 25 expert witnesses, but they only provided the necessary backup for 5 of them. So that's a question. What will the judge do about that? And we don't know.
And with the 68 terabytes of information, I think they touch on something that always has my jaw like on the ground when we discuss is the 800 terabytes of documents being 8 million pages or 500 hours of video footage. That's what I think. Like, how much video footage do you have if you have all those terabytes? My computer, I have 500 gigs on my SSD. I just have to get a new solid state drive because 500 gigs on a desktop is ridiculous. But a terabyte, 2 terabytes, 4 terabytes. I think my new hard drive is 4 terabytes, and I'm like, well, it's never getting filled. What am I going to use 4 terabytes of? And I have video games. Video games are huge things that you have to have a lot of, hopefully at least something if you have that much information.
Well, my guess is that, remember that weather site that we talked about? Oh, probably about, I don't know, 6 months ago, back in the early summer, the weather site that has pictures of roads. So how many intersections would Mr. Kohberger, if he's the suspect, we presume he's innocent, but they were following a Hyundai Elantra, presumably, according to the prosecution, how many intersections would it have gone through between Pullman, Washington, and Wawa Park if he went there, and then the Hyundai Elantras? They have at all those different intersections in Moscow, Idaho, and they have that weather site. Plus, they have the intersection cameras. And what if they just left him on for they collected 24 hours? I mean, he might have gone, or the Elantra might have gone by in 10 seconds, but what if they provided 24 hours of that video for each intersection between Pullman, Washington, and Moscow, Idaho? I mean, so is someone going to have to sit there and watch, 24 hours worth of video just to see 10 seconds of the Elantra going by?
Well, a more horrifying thought, which maybe this won't strike you as immediately horrifying, is that what if they have some type of satellite imaging that has these, like some type of 3D image, and then you need to, one, get a computer that's strong enough to render this, and then 2, you got to wait for that to render depending on the computer. Like, I'm sitting here trying to render a 3D image. We see that's how horrifying. Long these videos take to export.
Right, that's horrifying. But I mean, it's feasible. It's totally feasible. It's the kind of thing that could be on there, as opposed to actually having documents that would make sense. Suppose he went in and he went to that store the next morning and bought whatever he bought, and if they have the receipt of that and the picture of him in there, so what? Who doesn't go out for breakfast or go into a store in the morning and buy whatever? But, so yeah, and in any event, that is a large load of documents. It's a load.
And like, even if it's just 1 terabyte of unorganized metadata, I would lose my mind. Like, if it's just like, oh, well, here's a like 50,000 pages on like a single transaction, I would lose my mind.
Well, here's what I've said about that. I said it before, I'll say it again. And that is that, okay, it's a lot of stuff, but I mean, you hire interns and clerks and law school students who need some money. I know I did. First-year attorneys just out of law school who still are looking for a job and could use a few. And you fill up a skyscraper with that type of assistance, and you have them go through it all and log it all. I mean, yes, it's a big job. Yes, it's horrifying. Yes, it's a huge job, but it can be done if it's broken down into little bits and bytes. But anyhow, I don't know.
From hell. So our last comment today, Janet Hugridge says, good morning, Andrew and Lainey. Great video. The games the prosecution is playing is getting very old to me. Turn over the discovery properly, otherwise they cannot use it at trial. IMO. What do you think of this?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, look what's happening in a couple of trials now where prosecutors have not turned over materials before the trial, and then there were sanctions. I mean, yes, I agree 100%. I mean, a litigation attorney knows that you have discovery obligations. Every court is different. Some courts have automatic discovery that you must disclose a certain list of things. Other courts, most courts, you serve discovery requests, and you've got to comply with the rules of discovery. And if the other side files motions to compel, which Ann Taylor has done 20 times now, you've got to respond to that. You've got to respond, and the court is obliged to act on those. If this court does not act on those motions to compel, and we really don't know because it's all been sealed, and maybe that'll be my next request. So yeah, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Turn over the discover properly. Otherwise, you may not use it at trial.
And honestly, maybe I'm a little bit like too nitpicky about this, but I, as a person with my documents, I have my folder for like what I'm doing at school, and I have it every single semester. It's labeled the number of the year for spring, fall, and then each time you go in and it's very clearly lays out each thing, and then you click it and everything's is it not even like super organized, but somewhat organized? How are you going to have all this information to hand over and none of it's organized, or it's so hard to get through? Just clearly cite what everything is and hand it over. Did you not have to organize it in the first place to have it? Is crazy to me.
Well, I just said, it's a huge job, but it's got to be done. You got to hire interns and clerks and law school students and others to do it for it. I mean, we have minions behind the scene that help us with all of this. I mean, it's not as big of a job as going through 68 terabytes. I'll admit that, but you gotta do something. And in any event, so do we want to talk about my request for information from the court?
Uh-oh.
First of all, for a little bit of background, we have to go over the fact that the court encouraged people to request the unsealing of documents. Here is a document that was filed in the public Idaho cases of interest, Idaho versus Kohberger case, back on October 11th of 2024, order requesting case records. Venue in this case has been changed to Ada County, pursuant to order of the Idaho Supreme Court. This order is intended to clarify how records in the case may be accessed or requested, pursuant to Idaho Court Administrative Rule ICAR 32. Records that are available to the public may be accessed at the Idaho Supreme Court's Cases of Interest site, and we know all about that. We download stuff from there all the time. Requests for audios, that's the next paragraph. And then there's a special paragraph right here. Requests for sealed records are to be submitted to the Ada County Clerk's office. The sealed records request form is available at, and it gives a website. So to me, that says to me that they're inviting people to request that records be unsealed. The completed sealed records request form may be emailed to, and there's a site. And so they give us a form to use, and they give us a site to email stuff to. So, okay, so here's my request. It seemed to me that they were inviting people to request documents. So here's my request. The form's called Request to Inspect, Duplicate, or Transcribe Exempt or Sealed Records. And so I filled in the blank, a copy of the document. If you're asking for a copy of documents or to examine documents, please describe the documents in detail. So I didn't think I had enough room. I said, please see attached. I said what I wanted. The description of the document sought in my December 30th of 2024 request was the actual affidavit of probable cause or other document to which the 18-page statement of Brett Payne dated 12/29/2022 and docketed on same date is attached. The public document is titled Exhibit A. A similar Exhibit A statement of Brett Payne was filed in Pennsylvania, but was attached as an Exhibit 2, an actual affidavit of probable cause. By this request, I respectfully seek the actual affidavit of probable cause. However, the document was titled, that was attached to the Exhibit A in Idaho, but which has not, at this time, been made public. So that's what I requested. People, and I'll explain that in a minute, and they asked to know why I wanted it. And I pointed out I'm an attorney. I do a podcast, and I want to read and objectively describe the document for my viewers. And so where they said that we should be able to request documents, they said, that's what I want. So I'll explain is that confusing? Should I explain that?
Very clear, I would say, in my opinion.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is I just want to explain to people, people have said probable cause affidavit, probable cause affidavit, probable cause affidavit. We have not seen the probable cause affidavit in Idaho. This is all we've seen in Idaho. This is all we've seen. See how that says Exhibit A, Statement of Brett Payne, and it's an 18-page document that we've gone over many, many, many times. It's just got, everything that we've talked about, how they say they tracked him, maps of where Mr. Kohberger went, explaining, Dylan Mortensen's seeing this person clad in black. And, at the bottom, it is signed by Mr. Payne, Brett Payne. But even though people refer to it as a probable cause affidavit, it is not a probable cause affidavit. What it is Exhibit A, Statement of Brett Payne, to the probable cause affidavit. And by way of an explanation, this is what an affidavit of probable cause looks like. This was the affidavit of probable cause filed in Pennsylvania in order to arrest Mr. Kohberger. See how it says Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with Pennsylvania's seal, affidavit of probable cause. And let's go down to paragraph 3. On Wednesday, December 28th, 2022, the Pennsylvania State Police requested to assist the Moscow Police Department, Moscow, Idaho, and Federal Bureau of Investigation with a homicide investigation, which occurred on Sunday, November 13th, 2022. As a part of this investigation, we reviewed reports and affidavits prepared by the Moscow Police Department establishing probable cause for issuance of a search warrants related to this investigation, which are included in this affidavit of probable cause as Exhibit A. So the document we've been looking at and referring to as the PCA is not a probable cause affidavit. Is what it is an exhibit to something like this in Idaho. And yeah, if you go online, you can find a form that the law enforcement authorities would have filled out. But this is the Pennsylvania affidavit of probable cause. We have never seen the one in Idaho. It's sealed. So
would they be significantly different?
Well, look at all the detail that's in this document. I know it's kind of hard to read, but they say how they had physical surveillance of the property in Pennsylvania, and in the early morning hours of Tuesday, December 27th, observed Bryan Kohberger walking near his residence. Additionally, Kohberger's vehicle was observed entering the Indian Mountain Lakes development on December 16th. And the vehicle is still believed to be on premises. Investigate. So it goes into a lot of detail. It goes into a lot of detail. It also says the search and seizure of various items. Your affiants are requesting all. Here we go. Digital devices seized.
Plural.
Yeah, digital devices. Because as we just mentioned a little while ago, nobody has just one of them, not anymore. Especially somebody that was like 28 years old at the time. So. In any event, I don't want to belabor the point, but that is the Pennsylvania affidavit of probable cause to which Exhibit A was attached. And so what I had requested was the Idaho affidavit of probable cause. So Laney, get out the dent, and we'll find out what the Idaho court did with my request. What they did is they sent back my request. Down at the bottom, request denied for disclosure. Reason for denial or comments, the requested record is sealed. But wait a minute, I thought they invited us all to request unsealing of documents. I thought back when the case was transferred from Moscow down to Boise, Idaho, I thought, wrong, of course, that they were inviting the possibility that the case was going to be a little bit more open down in Boise. Obviously, I was wrong. So it seems really circular to me. It seems very circular that they invite us to request the inspection of sealed records, but then they say the requested record is sealed. There's no reason, there's no rhyme, there's no explanation of why they don't want to unseal the document. They just say the requested record is sealed. So I don't know. And that's the judge's signature right there.
But honestly, though, I will say at least you got his signature. That's kind of it's still pretty cool. I mean, I think I agree with you in the sense that is like, why are they even bringing it up in the first place if they're just going to reject the people who request it?
And I said twice in 2 previous episodes, and I know other people are watching us. I know they are. I asked in previous episodes if anyone has made a request that's been honored. If anyone has received documents from their request, let us know. And I haven't heard any. I've had comments that, so and so requested documents and was denied. So and so requested documents and they were denied. So other people out there are requesting these documents, but it seems like a waste of time. I'm thinking, if I should make a third request, I think 3 strikes and I'm out. But
they're using it as bait to judge public interest.
There's just so much. There's so much that's been sealed. I didn't know, I have 1,000 ideas. I'm just trying to think of something that would be simple that they would let us have. I would have thought that the probable cause affidavit would be something that they would unseal and that it was, attached to Exhibit A. What's in there? What's in there? What did they, what did they observe? What did they see? What evidence did they have that Mr. Payne didn't include in Exhibit A to the probable cause affidavit? Why are they still keeping the probable cause affidavit sealed in this case? It makes no sense to me. I mean, it's got to have something in there that is interesting.
That's just what I was saying. I just picked, or what I was just thinking. I was just picturing them as just like, all right, let's see what this request was for. La 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 la. Takes a look at it. Oh, he puts it back down. Rejected. Sealed.
I'm wondering if they even did that. I'm just wondering if they just get out the stamp and go to every one of them. I just
wanted to see how much interest they would get to know how badly it needs to stay sealed. Had nobody requested it, maybe they would have been a little bit more lenient. Now they're looking at this. It was like, everybody wants to know, so I guess we can't tell anyone.
Well, it just seems like make work to me. I mean, for them to ask us to make requests and then to deny them all. It's just, I don't know. Well, anyhow, any other comments, any final thoughts on this?
No, I mean, I appreciate everything that you guys have to say. A lot of the times you will say things that I look at it and I'm like, you know what, that is a very good comment. Like the 1 terabyte being over the 500 hours of video. That is something that, like, I sit and think about so much, because even our videos, even though I consider them to take up a large amount of space, they really don't. So, thank you for spending a fraction of a terabyte with us today. It's not like, no, basically, thank you for spending 2 gigs with us today. We appreciate your feedback, and it's always interesting to see what you guys have to say.
My closing thought is, I got one comment. Well, I made a comment and it was removed. Gee, now I know. I don't know what they know, but I had only at that point deleted one. I did delete one comment because it just came out and it said really nasty things. And so I deleted. But then I went up, we can go up into the innards of YouTube, and they do remove, and they had removed a whole bunch of really nasty comments. So people aren't listening to what I said, and that is, don't personalize it. Don't name call. If you don't like somebody, don't call them Auntie Bev. Tell me why you don't like the person. Tell me why there's a ruling that you disagree with. I have disagreed with some rulings, and I have told you why. I haven't sat here and name called, but there was some really nasty things in there. People called us names. People called other creators names, which we have nothing to do with. People called the parties in these lawsuits, use your imagination, names. And that's not what this channel is about. I know there are tunnel channels that do that, but this isn't the tunnel channel. This is the legal channel. So I'll leave with that thought, that if you're gonna just call people names and be really nasty and attack not just me, but other people that have to do with these cases, tell us intelligently why you don't like them. Tell us intelligent why you disagree with their strategy. just a sentence or two. I don't think it's right that he's going after all of those experts, but don't just call them names, because YouTube removes the really bad ones, and I removed some of them. But in the last week, I think I only removed one of them. So anyhow, be nice.
It makes me, it just makes me think of how, like, on Threads, or even I think Twitter does something similar, where it's just like you have too many comments that get flagged, and then your whole account, you can't even like barely comment on stuff. So like Andrew was saying, be nice.
Be nice, be kind, whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or wherever. Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.